not sure. I always have to wait to tell me that for YouTube to tell me that even though Zoom is telling me that we are live and rolling on my YouTube channel, I always want to say thank you, YouTube, for giving me the insight that we got something going on. Of course, so this is Conversations with Mitch Gray. My name is Dr. Keith McNally, and of course, this is Mitch Gray. Mitch, it's always good to have you in conversation. How are you doing?
Doing well. Good to see you again, Keith.
Absolutely. You're growing your hair out now. You got a
It's
different
getting
style going.
long.
Yeah.
It is getting long. It's clean because I just washed it last night. So I always have this joke that clean hair is not the best hair to style. I've grown it out a few times in life, and so this is another time to grow it. I have good hair, and I have a fly that's bothering me as well. So here we are, flies and long hair. That's how we're rolling today.
Well, I got no fly in my house. I've got a dog and a cat downstairs. And so I know the cat loves to chase things, but I don't have any hair because I'm a bit older than you are. Actually, I do have hair. It's just
That has
receding.
nothing to do with you not. That has nothing to do with you not having hair. Your age. It's just your
I've got
genetics.
a
I can give you
receding.
some of mine. I can shave mine,
Well,
send it to you, and then you could glue it on.
that would be kind of gross. And so I don't think I like that approach, but I
Yeah.
kind of I'll
Well,
go with the bald as long as I can because I've been so what had happened, and this isn't necessarily the conversation about what we're going to have a conversation about, but a couple of years back, it was just growing out, but I had like cut it short. But when it grew back out, I've got literally a receding hairline, so the hair
yeah.
starts about here. There's
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
circle back here, but it was just kind of growing like straight out. It wasn't even styling anymore. So I said,
Forget it.
let's give this
Just shave it.
let's give the ball a try. And so that's what I did. And
Looks
so
good. Looks good. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Mitch. And so for those who are watching and listening, um, I'm really big on LinkedIn. So I don't have a like huge following, but I do have a dedicated following. And my newsletters, my biweekly, my every other week newsletter really hits personal topics. And so I don't necessarily talk about business or marketing. I'm not one of those people who are into all of that. Not that it's not important, especially as an entrepreneur, but I do address more personal topics, transformation, and of course what we're doing. And really, a lot of them this year, and according to the time of this recording in 2024, I've actually taken the transcripts of a lot of the conversations that I've had and repurposed them. I think you gave me that inclination, but others
Yeah.
have shared that too. Repurposed that content, so they've become written newsletters, and they've been really good. Actually,
Yeah.
I had in September, myself and a couple of my colleagues were out in North Carolina. We did a suicide prevention, suicide awareness campaign called Ignite the Spark. And
Hmm.
it was our first live. It was the first time I'm the host of the Envision Speaker Series. It was the first time the Envision Speaker Series was streamed live on site. I've done virtual lives, but this was the first one that was done on site. We did it at a church called Unity of the Triangle. Anyway, where it was streamed initially, and I'm going to give a shout out to Cheyenne Kramer, and of course I'll tag her when this goes to LinkedIn, is that on her Ignite the Spark Facebook page, that video, it's a 2 hour long video, has 1,000 views. And so that's
Wow.
good for anything
Wow.
I've ever done. And
Yeah.
it's
That's
also good
cool.
for something that she's done. And so we're kind of creating this namespace for Ignite the
Hmm.
Spark. It's our campaign to bring attention to suicide and suicide awareness,
Hmm.
and specifically to suicide prevention because it impacts so many people in
Yep.
so many different ways. I think now more than ever before, not that it's
Hmm.
never been important, but I think we are so much more in tune to its impact and the tragedies that circumvent or circulate around
Yeah.
a suicide, whether it's attempt or an actual success. So there's a lot of need for conversation, and I'm all about conversation.
Right.
But
Right.
I say all that to say, in yesterday's newsletter, um, I talked about the importance of having a name. And so to give this context, I've been training for a through hike of the Appalachian Trail. So initially it was designed for 2025. Again, this being 2024. But Hurricane Helene came and wiped out most of the high country in North Carolina, and even Southern Virginia. So they're rebuilding. People are literally rebuilding their lives, let alone the infrastructure, let alone, national parks and trails and whatnot. So I'm pushing my through hike to 2026, but I'm still in training. So, and training for me involves hiking trails across mostly Virginia, but in North Carolina as well. People see me in camouflage boots, a cap, and a 30-pound rucksack on my back. And so um, people kind of wondering what I'm doing because I'm the only person typically out there with a rucksack, let alone it being 30 pounds. And for those who recognize the value of, training and planning to do something, I don't even know if I was about to call it heroic. I don't think it's heroic. It's some kind of,
It's
long, it's
ambitious. It's ambitious. Yeah.
ambitious is probably the
Yeah.
better word.
Yeah.
This 4 month, 2,100 mile trek across 14 states. There's a lot of, discipline that goes into that. But for those who are
Mhm.
aware of what that entails, they always ask for my air quotes, my trail name. And a trail
Mhm.
name, without going too deep into the ideas, what people on the trail are going to call you because nobody's going to call you Keith. Nobody's going to call you Mitch. Nobody's going to call you by your first name unless they're being profane. So it's usually a nickname of, some type of characteristic. People have actually named me in my local area. Now, to give context to that, I live in Hampton Roads, Virginia. So I live in a town called Suffolk, and basically Hampton Roads is Norfolk Navy Base basically is in my backyard. So Norfolk Navy Base is the largest Navy base, one in the world, let alone it being a U.S. base. Um, and of course, it's circulated by, hospitals and Marine
Mhm.
Corps bases and Air Force bases and Army bases, and everybody's kind of working together. So I'm in this military town, basically, southeastern Virginia. I wear camouflage boots. And I look, carrying a rucksack. People have called me either G.I. Joe or soldier, and soldier's kind of taken on its meaning. And so, with the fact that I've got this mission of helping veterans who, like myself, suffer from PTSD, suicide ideation, and even some depression, the mission of going on the through hike was to help veterans recognize that their life doesn't have to be stuck in their mental state, that we can kind of break through that, have the
Right.
conversation,
Right.
and then give them an opportunity to experience something new. And so for me, after my fifth suicide attempt and a subsequent heart attack the year after, so this is 2021, 2022, I had to find a way of redefining my life, and I
Mhm.
found it. And I kind of want to help guide people, especially veterans, to do the same. So that was a really like 15-minute monologue as to what the
Mm,
heck is going on. But I thought helping people really clarify their identity is a big step
yeah.
forward in helping them regain some structure in their life. And I was hoping you could kind of give me some insight around them.
Yeah, I think first of all, thank you for sharing more of your story. I think it's more and more intriguing as you evolve and grow and develop, and it's really cool that you get to share that with others. And I think when we talk about identity, the first thing that always comes to my mind is what's called the beginner's mind. So there's this idea. Excuse me, this fly is really attacking me today. Um, there's this idea that in our beginner's mind or the innocence of childhood, we know who we are.
Mhm.
And I believe that to be true. So it's this idea of a second grader maybe saying, hey, I want to be a ballerina, or I want to be the president of the United States, or I want to be an astronaut, or whatever that looks like. And oftentimes with that beginner's mind, A child has a propensity toward something or becoming someone, and then they get told no. And I believe it's from that point forward that we struggle with identity. Now, the kicker to that is we often tie our identity to our profession, and I made that mistake. So then we become attached to the profession rather than staying attached to the identity. So I'll use myself as an example. My identity is I'm very compassionate, very empathetic, the strong ability and superpower to connect with others on a deep level that they're normally not used to connecting. And I can do that very quickly. I can tap into the energy of others really quickly. It's kind of, again, one of my superpowers. Those things are my identity: empathy, compassion, connection, deeply involved in all relationships. I become very connected very quickly from the first time I meet someone. For me, someone who had those types of characteristics in their identity, the culture I grew up in meant you became a preacher. And I also had an
But you
identity that I
did.
love to, well, I did, yeah. I love to speak. I love to present new thoughts. I love to encourage people to consider new thoughts, and I'm very good at those as well. The problem is when we attach it to a profession, and it doesn't become our profession. So for me, it became my profession very temporarily until it didn't work. It can lead us down a path that's very destructive because the profession then becomes our identity. So I'll throw this back on you. Your identity is shaping up a little bit in connection with your ambitious goal to hike the trail.
Right.
The downfall can become if the trail never gets hiked. Are we okay with that? And that's where we confuse identity. And you see this when people retire, or you were talking about military folks. You see this when people leave a system like the military. For me, it was leaving, becoming a pastor or a preacher. It was leaving that behind. I struggled. I still struggle to this day, if I'm being honest. And it's been almost 20 years ago now that I still struggle with what do I do with myself professionally when I know specifically what my identity is. So in Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, he actually does a really good job at pointing out that it doesn't matter what our profession is. That's not our identity. Our identity is who we are, and we can carry who we are to any profession. We make the real mistake when we tie our identity to how we make money. And Rick Rubin actually preaches against that. He's like, I actually believe that you should go as long as you can, not making money at what your passion is, what your identity is. Because once you start making money and it becomes dependent financially, then you're attaching to it. So we have to talk about attachment detachment. So, what is our identity? It's how we carry and how we exist as a human in this human experience. It does not have to be our profession. So, the question I hate when you meet someone new is they always ask, oh, so what do you do? And it's like, what does it matter what I do? Why don't you ask who I am? That would be the better question. You can see where I love to think deeper. It's like, no, the more interesting question is, hey, Keith, I'm Mitch. So, who are you? Tell me about yourself. I don't care what you do to make money. What I care about is how you show up in this existence.
The first thing they're going to say is, "Oh, I'm a sales, or I'm a marketing,
That's
or I'm
exactly right.
yeah,
That becomes the identity.
yeah,
I'm a plumber. I'm a lawyer. I'm a teacher. No, that's not who you are. That's what you do. And so when we talk about identity, we're talking about who we are, but we've been so conditioned from the time we were young. I want to be a ballerina. Well, you can't be a ballerina because very few people make money at it. I don't have to make money at it. I can be a ballerina and a school teacher. Like it doesn't matter. And so that's where that conditioning or that domestication, as Don Miguel Ruiz calls it, that's where that starts kicking in. And it's a major, major mistake, you know? And so, like, my encouragement for someone like you would be make sure the identity is who you are as you show up to hike the trail, regardless if you ever hike the trail. And we hope you do. And we want to support you as best we can on that. But we also know life happens and things happen, just like having to push it back. And so you just really see that. I see this a lot with professional athletes. They make their money as an athlete. That's who they've been since they were a kid. And then they go to retire at 30 years old because a professional athlete doesn't last long. And it's like, oh my gosh, who am I now? And that's a real, real challenge.
and and I've I think I face that. I actually think I face that now. And sometimes when I wake up in the morning, you know, not all the time. And so I don't want to give me myself or any of my audience, my listening audience, any doubt. But there are mornings I
Yeah.
don't want to hike. I
We all
don't
do.
want to I
Yes.
don't want to go out there. And sometimes I think literally, the heck am I doing?
Yeah.
What is this all about? But I look at the brighter side of that is that my training discipline, as much as it is a routine, it's also a discipline. Uh, I have benefited from it. So I have literally been transformed by the routine and the training and the discipline. I've always been disciplined in one way or another. But to kind of
Sure.
give context or details to this, literally, and this I'll date the show 10/16/2024, 2 years ago, 10/16/2022. I was in the hospital. I had the heart attack at 3 o'clock that morning. It was a Sunday morning, if you want to check Google dates. Um, when I get out of the hospital, I had to transform my life. Now,
Hmm.
it wasn't my intention at that time, like 2 years ago, it wasn't my intention. Oh, well,
Right.
dang on, I'm going to go
Right.
hike the AT.
Yeah.
My goal, and this is what I wrote in the newsletter, my goal was to find a way of not having a second heart attack because the
Yeah.
medical profession, the medical team, whether it was the cardiologist or the general practitioner, repeated the same mantra. And that mantra was once you've broken through the threshold of the first, you
Mm.
will have a second. And it doesn't matter if
Mm.
it's tomorrow, a month from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, you will have another heart attack. You've broken through that
Yeah.
threshold. And quite frankly, that disturbed me, to
Sure.
put it to
Sure.
put it mildly.
Yeah.
So it was my intention to find a way of not having that second heart attack. Now, I'm an endurance athlete by nature, meaning that I used to run distances, and I'm not a very good runner, and I don't run now. So I walk distances, and I'm very comfortable in that space of walking 12 miles. Who walks 12 miles a day?
Yeah.
And this week is 13 miles. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I took Monday off because I did a 21-mile hike on Sunday. Who does that? But the benefits have been I lost 25 pounds in 2 years. So
Yeah.
about literally a pound, a good pound a month. And now, you hear these guru doctors who are, you can lose 30 pounds in 30 days. Like, what the hell? Uh, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's a lot, and that's not what you want to do. This is real. If it wasn't cold, you see my skin and bones here, but it's healthy weight. I've not been called air quotes underweight. I'm 5'5". I weigh 135. Now, I'm a tiny guy to begin with, but cardiologists took tests, the EKG and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and declared me healthy. Now, when the
Sure.
cardiologist declares you healthy, and I know we talked about having that win a couple of weeks back, when a cardiologist declares you healthy after month, or, urging you almost, Keith, you got to take these medications. You got to take these four
Yeah.
medications. They're going to keep your heart alive. He gave me the green light to go like the 8A. That's a good thing.
Yes.
It's a really
Yes.
good thing to have that.
Yes.
So I've accomplished the first thing, not to have it. Well, I haven't in 2 years. And so
Yeah.
with my current pace, I don't expect to lose much more weight, or any more weight, I
Right.
should say. I could probably handle 135 only because, the amount of calories I do burn in a day with the
Hmm.
hiking, with the weight training and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do identify, however, what you said. I do identify as a through hiker.
Hmm.
That is a title of the
Hmm.
AT. It's a through hiker is a title. I want that identity. Not that it's going to make me $1,000 or $1 million or whatever dollars. It may not, but it's
Right.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily define me. What has defined me is that I took on a mission,
Hmm.
and that mission has transformed me.
Yes.
So I'm much more spiritually in tune. I'm
Yeah.
much healthier physically. I have better connections with the people because I
Hmm.
understand how to overcome challenges,
Hmm.
struggles.
Hmm.
So I can relate with people and say,
Yeah.
hey, this is, I'm not asking you to hike 12 miles daily, but if we set a target and we take on the steps to achieve that
Yeah.
target, the journey itself is going to be transformational.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what I've accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's an evolution. It's an evolutionary growth, and that's what I've seen in your life. It's what happens to all of us. And I think sometimes when we attach too much to something, we stunt the growth that's going to naturally take place. And so that would be my encouragement to everyone is don't attach so much to the something, but simply be in tune with the someone that you are. And that's what you're alluding to is when we can get in tune with that, everything else kind of falls into place and takes its course.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Totally agree. On the trail, they call me soldier. I'm okay with that. I'm on a mission, but it fits my persona.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to get things done, and we're doing that. Mitch, it's always good to have a conversation with you.
For sure.
Next time, I'll let you lead the conversation.
All
So come prepared with the topic.
right.
Cool. All right. For those of you who've been watching and listening, this is Conversations with Mitch Gray, and we'll see you next time. Take care.